This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Okay, picture this for a moment. You've got a tourist right at the base camp of Mount Everest. They take out their phone, snap an amazing picture, and boom, it's sent instantly to friends back home. Over 4G.
Yeah, I mean, just a few years back, that would have sounded completely, well, impossible, right?
Totally. But the really amazing thing is, this isn't some future scenario. It's actually happening in Nepal today.
It really is. And it speaks to this fascinating phenomenon called leapfrogging, which Nepal is kind of a prime example of.
Right, let's dig into that term leapfrogging, because it's really central here. So what does it mean exactly?
Well, basically, it's when developing countries manage to skip over older, often really expensive technologies. Think like traditional copper wire landline phone systems.
The ones that cost a fortune to lay, especially over difficult terrain.
Exactly. And instead, they jump straight to the modern stuff. So in this case, widespread mobile communication, they just bypass that whole costly, decades-long infrastructure build-out phase.
And what's so interesting about Nepal is how its biggest challenges, those incredible mountains that make laying cables almost impossible, actually became, well, a strategic plus.
Precisely. It wasn't really a choice between old tech and new tech. Mobile networks became pretty much the only practical way to connect remote areas. So mobile first wasn't just a good idea, it was basically a necessity.
Turned a limitation right into an advantage. So that's what we're diving into today. We want to explore how this mobile-first reality in Nepal is changing, well, everything. Finance, healthcare, education, even how people interact with the government.
We'll look at the successes, which are genuinely impressive, but also touch on the challenges that still exist.
Absolutely. We're going to help you understand what this rapid shift means for Nepal itself and also what it tells us about development trends globally.
Okay, so let's start with that foundation, the mobile-first imperative, as you called it. Because mobile networks just need towers, not endless cables, they were the only feasible answer for so many remote villages.
Right. So they leapfrogged that whole landline phase.
Completely. Straight to 21st century communication. And the adoption rates, well, they tell the story.
Yeah, the numbers are kind of staggering. Mobile penetration is over 124%.
Which sounds weird, but it just means lots of people have more than one SIM card. Maybe one for personal, one for work, or different providers.
Still, it shows near total mobile saturation and 4G coverage reaching about 89% of the population. Given the geography, that's really quite something.
And think about internet access. Something like 96% of Nepals who are online get there using a mobile device.
Wow. So the audience for digital services was already there, basically holding the platform in their hands.
Exactly. A massive, ready-made market just waiting for innovators to tap into it.
So who are the key players making this happen? It sounds like a mix of private companies and government effort.
Definitely. You've got the big telecom companies like the state-run Nepal Telecom and the private Incel. They're competing pretty fiercely, pushing 4G out even to remote trekking routes.
Competing to cover Everest Base Camp, apparently.
Huh, yeah, seems like it. And they're already prepping for 5G. Plus, you see initiatives like Ncel's work on digital inclusion for people with disabilities, which is really important.
But it's not just companies chasing customers, right? The government's playing a big role, too.
Oh, absolutely. There's the Digital Nepal Framework, which is their big strategy document, and they've declared 2024 to 2034 the IT decade.
An IT decade? That sounds ambitious.
It is. The goals are huge.
Yeah.
Creating 1.5 million IT jobs, boosting IT service exports to 3 trillion Nepalese rupees. That's about 22.5 billion US dollars.
Okay, so this is very much a deliberate national strategy, not just something that happened by accident.
Exactly. Policy is really pushing this forward.
Which brings us to how this plays out in everyday life. Because everyone has a smartphone and decent mobile internet is affordable,
Wow.
It's like the barriers to entry for new digital ideas just vanish.
Right. Innovators didn't need to persuade people to buy a new gadget. They already had it. It created this sort of virtuous cycle. New mobile services pop up, people use them, which encourages more innovation.
Let's talk specifics. Finance seems like a huge area of change.
Oh, massive. Mobile wallets like Iswa, they were a real pioneer, and Kulti, they're household names now.
What can you actually do with them?
Pretty much anything. Pay your electricity bills, sometimes you even get cash back for doing it digitally. Buy tea from a street vendor using a QR code. Book movie tickets, bus tickets, shop online.
That convenience factor is obvious, but what about the bigger economic picture?
Well, it's a huge boost for small businesses, that Craftsman in Pokhara you mentioned. Now they can easily take payments from tourists. No more just relying on cash.
And I guess digital payments mean more transparency.
Exactly. Less cash changing hands under the table means less room for corruption. It also helps formalize the economy, bringing more activity into the official system.
And the central bank is involved too?
Yeah, Nepal Raster Bank has stepped in with regulations, things like requiring better cybersecurity, business continuity plans. It shows the whole mobile payment ecosystem is really maturing.
Okay, finance is transformed. What about something like healthcare? That seems critical, especially with the remote populations.
Absolutely critical. Telemedicine isn't just a nice to have in Nepal, it's often a necessity. Specialist doctors are concentrated in cities, very scarce in rural areas. Mobile tech is bridging that gap.
So someone in a village can actually consult a cardiologist in Kathmandu without traveling for days.
That's exactly it. Apps like Miro Doctor, Hamro Doctor, Cura Health are really popular. They offer video consultations with all sorts of specialists.
Wow.
Doctors can issue digital prescriptions. Miro Doctor even offers free follow-up consultations sometimes, which is a big deal.
And lab tests.
Yep, Cura Health lets you order tests to be done at home, and you can even compare prices between different labs. Hammer Doctor has this huge database of verified doctors you can search through.
Is the government involved in telemedicine too?
Yes, they're setting up teleconsultation centers to link rural health posts with city-based specialists. So public and private efforts are working together here.
That's incredible access. And education. Is mobile tech making a difference there too?
Definitely. It's democratizing knowledge, making learning more accessible, and importantly, affordable.
How so? What kind of platforms are out there?
Well, you've got things like Digital Path Shala. They offer professional IT courses, Python, web development stacks like MERN for really low costs, starting around like $7 or $8.
That's amazing. Opening up tech skills like that.
It is. Then there's Mero School for K-12 stuff, exam prep, but also skills like languages or graphic design. My second teacher has interactive lessons tied to the national curriculum for students and teachers.
So supporting the formal school system too?
Right. And Nepal Edu focuses on getting free, quality resources out, especially to rural kids. The feedback is really positive, students saying they understand things better, prepare for exams more effectively. Parents love it too.
Okay, finance, health, education. What about interacting with the government itself? That's often where bureaucracy really bites.
Well, Nepal's tackling that head-on with their main government app, the Nagaric app. Nagaric means citizen.
The Citizen app, what's the goal there? Cutting down queues and paperwork.
Exactly, to put state services literally in your pocket. And the range of things it covers is pretty impressive.
Like what?
Your personal documents, digital versions of your ID, passport details, driver's license, voter card. Tax stuff, registering your PAN number, checking payment history, paying vehicle tax online.
Wow, okay.
Accessing statements for your pension fund, your citizen investment trust. You can even get police clearance certificates, pre-register for COVID vaccines, or file police complaints through the app.
That is a huge leap in convenience and efficiency. I heard it won an award.
It did, the World Summit Award back in 2022,
Oh.
which is great recognition. But, to be balanced, like any big government IT project, it's had some growing pains. Users sometimes report glitches or slowness.
Sure, that's understandable with something so complex. Room for improvement, always.
Definitely. And that brings us neatly to the challenges, because despite all this amazing progress, it's not all smooth sailing.
Right. What are the main hurdles Nepal still faces in this digital journey?
Well, the conversation has kind of shifted. It used to be just about getting people connected, getting them a SIM card. Now, the focus is much more on what experts call meaningful use.
Meaningful use, so not just having access, but being able to actually use it effectively.
Precisely. It's about ability, affordability, and the quality of that digital interaction. It's a more complex problem now.
So what does that gap look like on the ground?
Well, first, there's digital literacy. Overall literacy is maybe around 71%, but digital literacy is much lower, especially in rural areas, especially among older people.
And even within the government.
Yeah, somewhat surprisingly, there's a recognized shortage of skilled IT people within government agencies, which can slow things down.
Okay, so skills are one dimension. What else?
Infrastructure still bites. You can have the best app in the world, but if the power goes out frequently, or your internet connection is unstable, which is common in rural areas, it really limits how useful these digital services can be.
Right, the physical reality still matters.
Absolutely. And then there's social inequality. There's a clear divide between urban centers and rural villages. And there's a gender aspect, too.
How so?
Well, even if a woman owns a phone, cultural norms, maybe lack of specific skills or not controlling the household finances, might mean she doesn't have the same level of actual access or freedom to use digital services as a man might. So ownership doesn't equal full participation.
That's a crucial point. And bureaucracy, still a factor.
It seems so. Implementation of big projects can be slow. You mentioned the World Bank's Digital Nepal Acceleration Project. It got rated unsatisfactory specifically because of delays in getting things done. So good intentions don't always translate into quick action.
Okay, so challenges remain. But looking ahead, what's the next phase for Nepal's digital leap? It sounds like this is tied into their whole national economic future.
It absolutely is. Digital transformation is seen as vital for diversifying the economy away from such heavy reliance on remittances sent home by workers abroad. It's about creating higher-skilled jobs within Nepal.
And this is especially important now, right? With Nepal set to graduate from the least developed country status.
Exactly. Graduating means losing some preferential trade benefits, so building a more competitive, innovative, digitally enabled economy becomes even more urgent.
Is there international support for this next stage?
Oh, yes. Significant support. The World Bank has put in $140 million for that acceleration project, despite the initial delays. And the Asian Development Bank just announced a new 5-year strategy for Nepal, about $2.3 billion, and digitalization is flagged as a key priority.
So the resources and international partnerships seem to be there.
They do. The potential is definitely there, especially with things like 5G on the horizon. But, continued success really depends on getting that balance right.
Balance between what?
Between the dynamic private sector, which is clearly innovating rapidly, and effective public policies that really tackle those remaining barriers. We talked about the digital literacy gap, the unstable electricity in remote areas.
Meaningful use challenges.
Exactly. How well that public-private partnership works, how harmoniously that tandem operates, that's what will determine if Nepal can take the next, even bigger leap forward in its development.
It's been quite a journey exploring Nepal's story today. Just fascinating how a country facing such huge geographical hurdles managed to turn them into, well, a catalyst for technological advancement.
Yeah, the impact across so many parts of society, to finance, health, education, government, it's really profound. It offers some powerful lessons.
And why should this matter to you, our listener?
Well, I think it's a really potent example of how sheer necessity can spark incredible innovation.
Right, and it shows technology's potential to genuinely open up access to services and knowledge that were previously out of reach for many. But it also reminds us that just providing the tech, the connectivity, is only the beginning. Tackling those deeper issues, skills, infrastructure reliability, social equity, that's the harder, longer-term work needed for truly inclusive digital transformation.
It's a complex picture, even in a success story like Nepal's.
Definitely. So as we wrap up, here's something to think about. As Nepal continues down this digital path, navigating both the opportunities and the challenges, what lessons could you draw from its experience about technology's role? How might it help address inequalities or foster sustainable development in other parts of the world facing perhaps similar or maybe very different challenges?